Good afternoon. The Wichita State University Fairmont College of Liberal Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame ceremony is now open. I am Ranfrid Lasagne-Tilla, Associate Professor of Religion. Our lamp of learning on the small table before me has a significant place in Fairmont College's history. By tradition, a lamp was passed from the senior class president to the junior class president at commencement. This activity demonstrated that the light of learning sweeps away the darkness of ignorance. Our inductees, who you will meet momentarily, exemplify the significance of enlightenment and its influence in shaping lives. We'll hear about their stories in their own words. I would like to now introduce you to Andrew Hipsley, Dean of the Fairmont College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. Dean Hipsley.
Good afternoon. I'm pleased to welcome friends, relatives, students, university administrators, faculty, and staff to this important occasion. I would like to specifically recognize Wichita State University President Rick Muma, sitting in the front, and CEO and President of the Wichita State University Foundation and Alumni Engagement Foundation, Dr. Elizabeth King. I would also like to recognize the chairs and the directors of the Fairmont College departments and schools, and members of the Fairmont College Student Advisory Council. Thank you, Dr. Taylor, for opening the ceremony. In addition to being an Associate Professor of Religion, Ranfrid Taylor is the 2023 recipient of the John R. Barry Award for Distinguished Teaching in the Humanities and Social Sciences. Ranfrid, please stand and be recognized. Dr. Taylor told us that the lamp of learning was traditionally given to a student to symbolize enlightenment, crossing from a state of not knowing to a state of knowing. The question is, what does a graduate of liberal arts and sciences education know now that they didn't know before? Well, we have in the audience 18 chairs of 18 different departments who have one kind of answer. The graduate now has foundational knowledge of a specific discipline. But I think they wouldn't stop there. They'd add that learning in their disciplines has requirements that produce in the student additional fruits. How to think, how to reason, how to interpret scientific, behavioral, cultural phenomena, how to integrate different branches of knowledge, how to communicate, writing, speaking, and perhaps most important of all, empathetic and intelligent listening, how to be curious and stay curious, to want to know things that you didn't already know. These are the fruits of a liberal education. Watching these fruits grow and ripen in our students is one of the most thrilling aspects of our job. If crossing over from a state of not knowing to now knowing involves the acquisition of disciplinary knowledge together with these fruits, the next question is, to what purpose? Written on that lamp of learning that Dr. Taylor was talking about are these Greek words, eis andra teleion. Means something like, given to that person who has reached their goal. That's the teleion part, telos, which means goal. So the question is, what is this goal? And I think that's the crucial part. What goal does a liberal arts graduate, enlightened, now possess? The goal of a specific career, of course, is important. But I think that there is a larger telos, a larger goal. And my evidence for that is what's happening today. We are celebrating a liberal arts and sciences education by celebrating 3 people, enlightened people, whose goal has been clearly beyond their career. A goal to inform, entertain, and bring joy. A goal to help the marginalized in society. A goal to serve others and educate. A goal to seek and enact justice. And a goal to seek the truth. These are the beyond the career goals. These are the goals that, if met, make our society a greater place. And for that reason, whatever else we are doing for our students, we need to be helping them determine their goal of good citizenship, so that they can be not only enlightened, but light itself to a world that so needs people like Gary, Lee, and Mona. A career is important. A career is what we do. A vocation is who we are. And a liberal arts education puts us on the path of discovering both career and vocation. We will now do the exciting part. We will confer the awards upon our honorees. Gary Bender, Mona Niemer, and Lee Pelton have been selected as this year's cohort of the Fairmount College of Liberal Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame at Wichita State University. Will the 3 of you please stand? Through your lifelong commitment to serving others and making the world a better place, we honor and appreciate your life's work, highly insignificant, and the impact you've had on region, nation, and world. We will now recognize each honoree in turn. Let's start with you, Gary. Gary Bender graduated from the University of Wichita in 1962 with a Bachelor of Arts in Speech. While growing up, Gary knew he wanted to be in some aspect of the sports industry. His creativity in broadcasting imaginary games as a youth had such an impact on his subconscious that years later, when he announced a game, he sometimes thought he'd called it before. Here's more about Gary's life and career.
Sitting on a tractor, working soil under the hot Kansas sun, gave Gary Bender a lot of time to daydream and practice calling play-by-play for sports. A coach's son, Gary tapped his vivid imagination to while away the long hours on the farm, 40 miles from the nearest town. In the tractor's seat, he created and narrated entire broadcasts of games. He first sang the national anthem and announced the broadcast system. Then he did a commercial before settling in to call play-by-plays of the game unfolding in his mind. He came to the University of Wichita on a football scholarship, playing in the positions of fullback and defensive back, until a shoulder injury forced him off the field. To fill his free time, Gary participated in several campus plays with university players, earning positive reviews for his acting performances or working on stage crews for other shows. He also joined Phi Delta Theta fraternity, serving as its treasurer, and eventually found his way to the broadcasting booth at KMUW, the campus radio station, to cover Shocker football games. After completing his degree in speech at Wichita, he attended the University of Kansas for a master's degree in radio, television, film studies. As a 40-year national sportscaster, Gary was known for his research, preparedness, and accuracy in his commentary. At CBS, he covered professional sports leagues and college sports with industry greats such as NFL quarterback and commentator Johnny Unitas, AFL and NFL coach and commentator Hank Stram, and NBA coach and commentator Bill Russell. Later in his career, Gary called professional games or hosted interviews for ABC, TNT, and ESPN, with more standouts such as college basketball coach John Wooden, NFL coach and commentator Dick Vermeil, and NFL player, college coach, and commentator Bill Curry. Before retiring in 2011, Gary's final career move was to Arizona to announce play-by-play for the NBA's Phoenix Suns, for which he called more than 700 home games in an 18-year relationship. Over his career, he won 3 Emmys for his work in sportscasting. Other accolades include his inductions into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame and the Kansas Broadcasters Hall of Fame. He lives in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Gary, would you come up? I have something for you.
I'm 100 years old, if you watch that. This is really humbling. I mean that sincerely. My 2 fellow inductees are amazing. I pale by comparison with you 2. I'm so impressed with you. I can't believe I'm in the same gathering, the same honoring. Congratulations to both of you, Mona and Lee. Well, you saw a little bit of my history. That tractor was not the kind of tractor I drove. I had a McCormick Deering W9. Anybody know about tractors? Somebody did. I was really good on those broadcasts. The best broadcasts I ever had were on the tractor. I sang the national anthem. I later started singing solos in high school because my mother heard me sing the national anthem on a tractor. I ended up doing the commercials. Do you remember this one? Look sharp and to be sharp, to use a razor that... I won't go on. I won't beat you up over that. But it was a time where I was very unhappy. I was 12 years old. We'd been farmed out, literally. My dad had been a coach. We went to the farm 40 miles from any town. I ended up being in a one-room country school for a while. And yet, during that time, I started a career. I did not know it at that particular time. I came here on a football scholarship. I played for my dad, who got out of farming. We had great success in high school in Ulysses, Kansas. I don't know if anybody's been in Ulysses. If you've been there, you were lost. But I played for him and then came here to play for Woody Woodward, who was the coach at that time, the University of Wichita. I thought I was going to play in the NFL. Everybody who comes out of high school thinks that's where they're going to end up. But I ended up injuring myself twice and had to give the game up. My only claim to fame, and I want you to remember this, is one of my teammates was Bill Parcells. You remember Bill? Bill and I used to have a sports trivia contest all the time, and he won every one of them. I could never beat him. And one time we finished the sports trivia contest. He said, Bender, he says, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, I don't want to be a sportscaster. He says, that's not good enough. Where do you want to be a sportscaster? I said, CBS. I said, Bill, what about you? what do you want to be when you grow up? He said, I want to be a head football coach. I said, that's not good enough, Bill. Where do you want to be a head football coach? The New York Giants. And he won 2 Super Bowls. 19-year-old kids. We had a vision. I don't know what we thought we were doing. When I retired, you saw the retirement there with the Phoenix Suns. He called me and he said, Bender, we've been fooling them for a long time. And I feel that way here. You know, I came here for the football, ended up having to adjust because of the injury. I don't know if you knew it or not, but there was not a journalism school at the University of Wichita at that time. And so I tried to find ways to get up in front of people, to express myself, to be able to learn to think on my feet. And so I took some theater courses. You saw my the Glass Menagerie performance, which I was a gentleman caller in Tennessee Williams' play. But I must tell you, the one person who scared me half to death while I was here was a professor by the name of Mary Jane Teal. Does anybody remember her? She was a redheaded fireball. And so I took acting 1 because I figured, well, I can't be in journalism. I can learn to act. You know how that goes? And so I got up in the course, and we were to do Hamlet. So I got up there, and I started my to be or not to be. And all of a sudden, the back of the room from Mary Jane Teal came, sit down. You're not even close to being Hamlet. This is the most embarrassing performance I've ever seen in my life. Get off the stage. And I remember crawling back to my chair, sitting down, and she said, you got a week to be Hamlet, and you better be Hamlet next week. That's pressure. That's the most pressure I've ever had. But that was what I was doing. I was trying as best I could to learn to express myself. I did some games on KMUW. I did a game when Lanny Van Eman, do you remember him? The guard for the Shockers hit a shot at the buzzer to beat Oscar Robertson of the University of Cincinnati. That was amazing. Fans came pouring onto the court, and I said to myself, this is the reason I want to do this. This is the total tunnel vision I've had from 12 years old as a kid on that tractor. This is where I want to go. So I moved on, eventually worked my way up to the ladder. And you know how I got to the network? This is humbling too. I'm just humbled all the way around. I was working at Madison, Wisconsin. I was the voice of the Packers. I was doing the Badgers. I was doing the Big Ten Game of the Week, and I had a 6 and 10 TV show. And a guy called me one day. He said, hey, are you Gary Bender? I said, yes, sir. He said, I understand you might be network quality. Would you send me a tape? Well, I had a bunch of them. I sent them off. 3 days later, he called me and he said, CBS has hired you. I said, what? Who are you? He said, I'm an agent. He told me who he represented. And here's how it happened. He was in a New York delicatessen eating with the president of CBS, Bob Wussler. They got up to leave the table. Wussler turned to this man, Bob, and he said, hey, Bob, before you leave, I need some help. We have lost Jack Buck. He is leaving CBS to go to NBC. Do you know of any network quality guy out there? A guy at an adjacent table got up, walked over. He said, gentlemen, I don't mean to interfere, but I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. I have somebody to recommend. They said, who are you? Well, I do the Big Ten Game of the Week, and I recommend Gary Bender. That is how I got to the network. I tried hard. Everything I tried to orchestrate would not work. But let me just say this. I am very thankful. I'm a blessed man. I worked with the giants of the business. I worked with the very best in the business. I was able to call the Michael Jordan shot, the shot heard around the world with Lorenzo Charles, the Hail Mary pass from Roger Staubach to Drew Pearson. And all of that makes me look back and think that tractor, I was farmed out and launched a career. How unbelievably unpredictable would that be? I am the poster boy. I should never have been in the broadcasting business. So, in summary, I don't deserve this, but I am so honored to have it. I want you to know that this honor is one of the finest things that's ever happened in my life. My wife, Linda's here. We just celebrated our 60th wedding anniversary. And Linda, this is right up there with that 60th wedding anniversary. Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Gary. And I'd just like to add something that Gary was, he didn't say this, the 2013 recipient of the President's Medal. Mona Niemer graduated from Wichita State University in 1977 with a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry and minors in French and mathematics. As a young girl in Lebanon, her passion for science grew. Now she uses science daily in her work, advising the Canadian government. Here's more about Mona's life and career.
Mona Niemer always knew she wanted to be a scientist and did not let sexist attitudes or her country's civil war stop her from becoming one. Upon enrolling at her all-girls school in her hometown of Beirut, Lebanon, Mona was disappointed to learn that science courses were not offered. Her teachers told her girls should not study science, but Mona and her peers prevailed in persuading the school to create a science track. She came to Wichita State to escape the civil war in Lebanon. Living with extended family and finding a large Lebanese population in Wichita eased her transition and gave Mona the support she needed to complete her degree in chemistry. She moved to Montreal, Canada, and continued her studies at McGill University in Professor Kevin Ogilvy's lab and completed her doctorate in bioorganic chemistry. For the next several years, Mona held faculty positions at the University of Montreal and the University of Ottawa, where she continued her laboratory studies on heart development and function in relation to heart failure and diseases. Over her career, she has published more than 200 scientific journal articles and presented her research worldwide. Teamwork and collaboration have been a hallmark of her work. Her proudest scientific achievement is the collaborative discovery of the GATA4 gene, which is essential to the body's production of heart cells. Mona's work has led to numerous recognitions. A few of these include the Leo Parisot Prize in Biological and Health Sciences, the MacDonald Scholarship from the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Canada, Marcel Pichet Prize, and McLaughlin Medal of the Royal Society of Canada. She is a member or knight of several Canadian or French orders or legions and is an elected fellow of 4 national science academies. Additionally, she holds honorary doctorates from universities in France, Finland, and Lebanon, and one from Wichita State University. As Canada's chief science advisor, Mona advises Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, the Minister of Science, and other cabinet members on scientific issues of national importance. She also represents the Canadian government's position on scientific issues to other nations' science advisors. Perhaps most notably in her role, she helped lead Canada through the COVID-19 crisis, for which Trudeau commended her work in helping Canadians understand and respond to the pandemic.
Mona, would you like to come up?
Well, thank you so much for this great honor. I'm truly humbled. I want to start by thanking Gary for making it so difficult to follow him. I don't have as many stories, and I sure will not be singing. I'm grateful to WSU for so many things. I'll just cite three maybe very quickly. First, I'm grateful that they took a chance on me, that they accepted me, a student, almost a refugee, out of a very far away country that was in the middle of civil war. Number one, they accepted me. Number two, they didn't require me to take a whole semester of English, although English was my third language. I figured for chemistry and math, it's good enough. They provided me with a great education that has served me very well during my life. And through the honors that they have given me today, they've reconnected me with my good friends and from Wichita. And I'm just so grateful that you've all come here. And I want to signal that my two best friends are here, and the three of us are actually women in science. So bravo to WSU. I guess you were very supportive. I said that I came here as an international student. I fled the war because I just felt so helpless in the middle of the craziness, and I didn't feel I could contribute and do anything that was helpful. I thought that actually getting an education, continuing my education, and getting enlightened was the best thing I could do to help my country. I came here to study. I didn't come here to impose on the society, and I sure didn't have in mind that I will spend the rest of my life in North America, whether in Canada or the United States. And my story is that of many, many hundreds of students who come to this country every year. They're looking for opportunities, they're looking for enlightenment. And I think education is the best way that we can have peace in this world, because it's all about enlightenment. And I think that universities are extremely important institutions. They're institutions that are being questioned these days about their mission, about their value to society. And I think it's extremely important that we protect our institutions, because doing so, we're protecting our democracies. So my life has been full of surprises. I was supposed to go to the University of Michigan to do my PhD. I ended up in Canada. I didn't like biology. I ended up spending my entire career, actually, in biology and health. I never contemplated that I would live in Ottawa, and let alone be the chief science advisor to the government of a G7 country. Me, the girl who actually fled a small Middle Eastern part of the world that, by the way, is still struggling with peace and with, and many people like me, when I came to Canada and to the United States, just want to get out of this region. So I think collectively we can help, and collectively we should just fight the stigma about international students and immigrants being a drag on this country and on this continent. I think that the United States has been a country, a welcoming country for everyone, and it's so important that it stays this way. So thank you again to WSU for this honor. It means a lot to me. This is where my journey started, and as an adult, this is where my journey started in North America. You've given me an invaluable education, and you've taught me so much. I'm forever grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona, for that. Lee Pelton graduated from Wichita State University in 1973 with a Bachelor of Arts in English.
He was born in a house that didn't have indoor plumbing until he was 6 years old, when the city finally decided to install a sewer line. His love of literature and sense of racial justice have shaped the arc of his career, from leading academic institutions to working to end the racial wealth gap. Here is more about Lee's life and career.
Lee Pelton is a life force for promoting equity, illuminating social issues, and proclaiming the value of a liberal arts education. Lee entered Wichita State as the first person in his family to attend college. He eventually found Fran Stevens, an English professor, who introduced him to the English Romantic poets and ignited his deep and abiding interest in the literary history of Romanticism. When Lee was a senior, Professor Stevens allowed him to co-teach or lead discussions in a few classes on Lord Byron, an experience which inspired him to apply to graduate school at Harvard University. A few years after earning his doctorate and teaching at Harvard, Lee launched a lengthy career in higher education administration, holding positions of dean at Colgate University and Dartmouth College. At both institutions, he was the first African American to fill these roles. He also served on the Harvard Board of Overseers, one of its governing bodies. These roles prepared Lee for advanced leadership, and he accepted his first offer of a presidency at Willamette University in Oregon. He led the institution to recognition as a top-tier liberal arts college. After 13 years, he headed east again to serve as president of Boston's Emerson College. There, he stewarded the institution to higher academic ranking and admission selectivity. Once more, in both presidencies, he was the first African American to hold the positions. Lee is recognized nationally as a powerful voice on diversity and social issues. His written message to the Emerson community following the murder of George Floyd included several of his first-hand experiences as a Black man and referenced the centuries of systematic racism in America. Directly, he asked readers what they were going to do to make permanent change. Lee has earned many accolades for his work and vision. A few of these recognitions include the Champion of Freedom Award, Robert Cord Distinguished Leadership Medal, Governor's Award for Mass Humanities, Academy of Distinguished Bostonians, and 6 appearances on Boston Magazine's annual list of 150 influential Bostonians, where he was ranked 3rd in 2023. He has 3 honorary doctorates, including one from Wichita State. As CEO and president of the Boston Foundation, Lee now strives to effect social change by making equity the focus of the organization's programs, grant-making, and leadership. The foundation's current and most ambitious endeavor to date is to close the racial wealth gap in Boston.
Well, thank you for this honor. It is, and I accept this with really deep gratitude and humility. You know, someone once wrote that teachers affect eternity because we never know where their influence will end. And that's certainly true for me. I came to Wichita State and I was blessed with great teachers. In fact, my time here was spent mostly with my professors than with my fellow classmates. And there are faculty in the English department who took me in, who nurtured me, who showed me a life that was unimaginable to me before I arrived. And I learned through my liberal arts education that the real meaning in life is not how much money you make, but whether or not you can lead your life with meaning, with purpose, and with hope. And I've sought to do that every day of my life, particularly in gratitude to my dear mother and father and to my wonderful, wonderful family, some of whom are here today. So I want to thank you very much for this honor. And I do have a story to tell you. I had a wonderful time here, especially in that department and with the faculty. But when I arrived on campus here after really a terrific high school experience at Wichita North High, where I was involved in taking a lot of AP classes. I was involved in the non-Euclidean math club. I don't even know what that means today, but it had some importance for me and where I was a leader at North. And I arrived the first day and I sat down and I spoke to someone about the honors program. And I said, I want to be in the honors program. And he looked at me. He looked at me. He did not look at my transcript. He did not look at my record. And he said, this is not for you. And that was my beginning here. And I was disaffected, I must tell you, for many, many years until I met this wonderful person named Elizabeth King. And she beckoned me back to the college, and it was the right thing to do. We've become close friends. And Elizabeth, I want to thank you for your love and your friendship for these many, many years. It has meant so much to me. And I feel wonderful that I can come back to this university with respect and love and the promise that was given to me as a young African-American student many, many years ago. So thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you for those words, Lee. At this time, you are going to participate because we are going to move to the panel portion of our program where I will ask, and then you will ask, Gary, Mona, and Lee about critical points in their career and how they felt prepared for those experiences. So I will join them and start with a few questions. Start thinking of your own questions now. Okay, thank you for your words. Let me start off with this one then. You've all come from different divisions in the college. Your social sciences, sciences, humanities. How did your degree programs and just your experiences as undergraduates with all the other commitments you had, how did those prepare you for the career that you were about to embark upon?
Shall I start?
Of course.
I think what happened to me here is it really came down to somebody coming up to me, putting their arm around me and saying, go for it. You can do this. I just needed that. I needed somebody who believed in me, who saw the potential of what I had, and was able then to just push me forward. And I think part of that has happened in my career all the way along. There's been somebody that has come along and said, I'd like to work with you. And so I'm grateful for that time that I spent here. I was a Kansas farm boy driving up in my '54 Chevrolet, and on the front I had Ulysses, home of irrigation and natural gas. That was the introduction I had for everybody at the University of Wichita.
Wonderful. Mona?
Well, I mean, I knew I wanted to do chemistry, sort of. I liked sciences in general, and I liked other things as well. But I wanted to do drug development, so I needed chemistry. I knew I was going to do graduate work in this, but you know, while doing undergraduate here, first of all, there was a language requirement, which was amazing. There were 2 language requirements, by the way, and it wasn't Spanish. One was German, the other one was Russian or French. I got exempted from French, thankfully. I don't know, maybe I should have learned Russian then. But believe it or not, these languages were very helpful to me because, in fact, sciences were published mostly in German, French, and Russian up to the 1950s. But anyway, that's the language part. But I had the chance to take courses in psychology, in political science, of course, and other areas. And you know what? Like, I had a lot of opportunities to do more chemistry. But I never had opportunities to study these other things. And they were extremely invaluable to me because, you know, when, like, I knew, first of all, I had friends who had done other things than science. So that was fun. It was very enriching. And the second thing is, as I took on these leadership positions, I am certain that these courses in the humanities and social sciences that I took here have really helped me a great deal. And I think that's probably what distinguished me from many of my colleagues who were perhaps more successful as scientists, but who had maybe fewer opportunities for more social, perhaps, leadership. And I think it's all to do with this, you know, broader education that I received here.
That's quite something. This is what we're trying to say all the time. So you said it much better. Thank you. Lee, what about you?
Well, you know, it was easy for me in many respects. I came here thinking that I wanted to be either an engineer or a lawyer, because both of those were paths to the middle class. And in fact, my original intent was to major in math, because I was pretty good at it in high school, and so that's where I started. About midway through my spring semester, I realized that I was not here to replicate my high school experience, but was to seek out what was really meaningful to me and what was important to me. And so I found the English department, and the English department found me. And as I said earlier, that's where I spend most of my time, was with those faculty. It was the faculty who encouraged me to pursue graduate student studies and to become a professor, which I did. And then I've spent my entire life in academia, except for the last 2.5 years, where I've become president and CEO of a philanthropic foundation.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you. So I'll ask one more question, and then I'm going to hand it over. So we have this saying in the college, and it's become more. That's our kind of motif, become more. And then you supply the adjective. And we thought, what should we supply as an adjective for the entire college? So we thought long and hard about it, and we thought, curious, become more curious. So this is my question. And it's really a question as, do you think we're onto something or not? So my question is, a lot of people talk about a need for lifelong learning. They call it a need. Do you think that's all hype? I mean, do we learn when we learn and that's the end and then we can rest? What do you three think about lifelong learning as a need?
Well, basically, I learned almost every broadcast. I didn't know as much as I thought I did. It was a life-changing experience for me. We had a saying at ABC that less is more. And the reason we did that is so many people just were talking all the time. It wasn't pertinent to what was going on. They just were nervous, and they felt like if they kept talking, they would sound more professional and they'd be better accepted, instead of letting the picture tell the story. And so what I learned in this business was I needed to edit myself. I needed to listen to others. One of the great skills that I was able to learn was to be a good listener. When I would interview somebody like Mona, I might have 5 questions written down that I really thought were good. And she would say something at the start of the broadcast or of the interview, it'd take me an entirely different direction because of what I heard her saying. And so I found myself, my preparation was the only thing I could control. But along with the preparation, I had to listen. In our business, you guys probably know this, everybody has an ego, but when you become one is when you become a problem. And so I got the reputation of being a coach. I could coach a John Madden. I could coach somebody because of the ability that I had gotten here, people listening to me, wanting to in some way encourage me. And so my theory, my whole reputation, my formula was, if my analyst was good, I was good. And I would hang onto their coattails and let them drag me through each broadcast and not be in any way battling for airtime and feeling that I, in some way, was being, I guess the best way to put it is that they deserve this space to work, and that's what I learned to do.
Thanks, Gary. Sort of a humility involved in the listening.
Well, it's a humbling business, Andrew. I would hate to tell all of these wonderful people here the mistakes I made. Some of them are just classic. Others are just downright embarrassing.
Mona, what about you?
I don't know where to start, actually, because, there are, let me just say that if you're not open to continuously learning, I think there is the distinct risk of becoming dogmatic. I'm not going to say dinosaur, but just dogmatic. And I think, dogmatism is a problem. It's a problem for society. It's a problem for the future of humankind. So, this is like the sort of biggest risk I find. After that, if you don't continuously learn, I think you have the risk of becoming also irrelevant, because you're just so dépassé by the events, by people around you, by your own children, your own students, your own colleagues, and not that they sort of know more. It's just that you stop listening, you stop being part of, the social dynamics and so on. I would say that in my case, I never stopped learning, because I think when I was in a job and I felt that I just don't have anything more to learn, this when I felt it's time to change jobs. Because I knew that I would stop being focused on it, I would stop being good at it. And I think it's all the different things that I've learned in life that have given me this really very enriching career. But beyond your career and beyond everything else, I think people who think they know enough are a danger to society.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Lee.
Yeah, curiosity is central. Obviously, curiosity is a precursor to learning, right? And then I think learning, of course, is a precursor to change. But I would also say that my view is, what was the phrase again? Something more?
It was lifelong learning. And
But what was the
my
phrase?
my phrase was become more curious.
I think we should become more curious, but I also think that we should become more engaged in the larger society. We live in a world where the distribution of wealth is unequal. We live in the world when there are children who go to bed hungry. We live in a world in which there are so many folks who don't sit at the table of bounty like us. And they need our support, they need our help, and they need our engagement. And without our commitment to that, we're not likely to make much progress in this world in which we live. And so I would say, in addition to being more curious, to ask folks to be more engaged, especially to those who are less fortunate than many of us sitting in this room today. Thank you.
So now it's your turn. So we do have people with microphones at the back. So if you have a burning question for these three superstars, now is your time. And perhaps put your hand up would be a good thing. Oh, there's someone here.
Can you? Yeah, there. What piece of advice would you give for students in the liberal arts, if you had one sage piece of advice?
I mean, my personal advice is always learn as much as you can and just don't overplan your life. Just go with the flow, embrace opportunities.
Go ahead, Lee.
Mine would be don't always listen to your parents. Especially in the humanities, you know, when they tell you, well, you should do engineering or math or this and that. But you say, what I really love is literature and history. And I say, you follow your passion. Yeah. If you can follow your passion at college, I guarantee you that nothing will go wrong. Can you imagine how my father felt when I told him I was going off to Harvard to study poetry? You know? And
It's expensive verses.
yeah, right. Well, but there's a life available to all of us. And again, I tell the students all the time: just follow your heart and your head. Be engaged, and try to achieve at the highest levels, and you will be fine. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. So,
Lee, I think you were fine. I think you did. You know, I was thinking about this. It's an interesting question. One of the joys of my career was I got to spend a lot of time with people. I'm a people person. I enjoy the energy they bring into my life. I enjoy the challenges that they've brought to me. I have grown through some very difficult circumstances. But I really think that what I saw here were people who saw something in me too. And I will see that in my broadcasting business. I want to tell you something. I never did a game the way I wanted to. Never. I never took off my headset and said, I nailed it. There's always something I wish I had said. There's always something I shouldn't have said, and all the above. My point being is, though, I had the people with me who understood that, overlooked some things in my life, encouraged me. And so when I see these wonderful people here and how smart they are, I would have really had a tough time keeping up with them in that particular venue. But
Just sing.
But here's the thing I would tell you. I love being with these two people. They're not just academic giants. They are really, really I think, real. And I'm into this real thing. So thank you for being real with me and accepting me.
Oh, we have a question over here.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Mercy Umeri, and I'm a faculty member here. I just want to thank you all for sharing your story and also being vulnerable. This has been very inspiring for me. Mona, I came here as an international student, and I'm also on faculty here. And recently, I was just selected to be the advisor, the faculty advisor for the African Caribbean Student Association here at Wichita State. That means I get to interact with, students who are coming from the 54 countries in Africa and those who are also coming from the Caribbean and the Bahamas. The question to you, Mona, because I deal with these 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, sometimes who come here, some of them, like your situation, coming from war, torn zones. What would you say to your younger self?
I'm going to start by congratulating you and congratulating WSU on naming you as the champion and the advisor. I think that the students are going to learn a lot from you, and don't underestimate how much it's important to have a role model. I think you're going to inspire them that they can have a better life, that they can contribute to society in ways they didn't think they could contribute. So I think, Gary, you said less is more. I think in those instances, you just don't have to say a lot. I think that just by being you and being with them is probably sufficient. And I'm always humbled, but at the same time, it's something that keeps me going when young women and immigrants come to me and tell me how much it means to them to just see me where I am. And I think that role models are extremely important. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
How do you find the strength to persist and persevere in your selected career path, even when your peers and everyone else is convinced that it's not fruitful or profitable?
I tell you what, the thing that's changed my business is social media. When I was coming up in the business, everybody thought we knew what we were doing. They gave us a lot of credit that probably wasn't deserved. But then when social media came in and the anger that came with it and the criticism and negativeness that came in, it really stopped me short. I didn't realize there were people out there that disliked me that much. And I think what I had to do then is I had to reevaluate why that was happening, if I could, and try to move on. It takes courage to be a high-profile person, and I know Lee and Mona know that as well. There's a lot that goes on with it, and there's a great responsibility that also goes with it. But you know what? I would never have wanted to do anything else. I had total tunnel vision. I could have done anything. I could have probably sold shoes and made more money. But I just loved what I was doing. And I hope, in spite of the criticism and the people who didn't like what I did, that I was able to still try to be true to myself, continually fighting through some of that and not letting it take me completely down.
The one thing that I would say, two things. One, I said this earlier to a group of students that there was a French philosopher who said that the future is not what it used to be. Meaning, and there are those who hide from the future, those who resist the future. and there are those who run towards the future. And my experience here in the humanities has been to run towards the future. This I know is true, that, how old are you? Just
19.
Well, you're young. So when you're 30, you will probably be in a job that does not even exist today. It's very likely. And the value of a liberal arts education is it will prepare you for that job, and it will prepare you for other jobs, because you will have the capacities of curiosity, you'll have the capacities of learning, you'll know how to communicate, to have critical thinking, and to collaborate. All of those are attributes for a great future. And I want you to remember that and to hold on to that faith. You know, Stephen Jobs, he studied psychology, calligraphy, and very, very little science, and art. Those were his interests. And he turned out okay, it would seem. And so I would suggest that you, if there are those who want to put you in a narrow box, which is okay, you know, in engineering school, people come to be engineers, and that is perfectly fine. But for those of us who are not going to be engineers, and those of us who come out of the humanistic studies, you know, the world is just so available to you. There are so many opportunities that you're going to have than maybe some of your colleagues who are focused on a narrow discipline, although important, but narrow discipline.
I mean, the only thing I will add is that, you know, the degree is not everything in life. It's important for a few years, and after that, it's what you've done with it. And the other thing is that people, you know, I think to Lee's point, students underestimate the competences they've learned other than the technical knowledge. So I think that in universities, we need to start helping our students write their CVs differently and appreciate everything they've learned, irrespective really of their major, in terms of critical thinking and in terms of, you know, teamwork and problem solving, et cetera, communication. So I think people should not be that hung up on their, certainly not their first degree. I mean, for sure, if you're doing English, you're not going to end up being an engineer, but those who do engineering may actually end up doing exactly what you might end up doing, which is, you know, being a manager somewhere, or a, you know, public policy person in government, or, you know, anything else that you want that's not technical.
You know, 10 years ago, maybe longer than that, there was a study looking at the undergraduate majors of the CEOs, I think it was Fortune 500, and fully 40% of them majored in something other than business. They majored in, you know, the humanities and in the
25% in chemistry. I know the study.
So, can I say something? Chemistry is part of liberal arts, okay? Okay. So,
Yes.
right. So, that's okay. We accept. So, chemistry is part of that. You know that study. So, but anyway, my point is, as you just heard, the, you know, engagement in the liberal arts will you know, provide you with opportunities that you cannot even today imagine.
Well, I think we are finished with time. I would like to thank Gary, Mona, and Lee for being so wise and giving us your pearls of wisdom today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Wichita State University Fairmount College of Liberal Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame ceremony is now concluded. Thank you for joining us for this special occasion to celebrate the liberal arts and sciences.